So yesterday evening, the Blood of the Dead Easter egg was finally solved, and with it, the community was greeted with one of the darkest and most emotional cutscenes in zombies history. Now, if you haven't seen the ending to Blood of the Dead just yet, be warned, this video will contain spoilers for the ending of the Easter egg. As most of you probably know by now, the cutscene leaves us with post-Revelations Richtofen, the one that we see during the Great War at the end of the Revelations cutscene, revealed to have been cryogenically frozen directly across from the Victis crew. This Richtofen uses a crystal, more than likely the crystal that belonged to the Fire Staff, although that is not currently confirmed, and defeats the Warden and cleanses the entirety of Alcatraz Island. He leaves Pre-Garode Krovi Richtofen, the one we had been playing as up until that point, attached to the Warden's machine, and also destroys his insurance plan, the Blood Vials, as Dempsey, Takeo, Nikolai, and post-Revelations Richtofen leave Pre-Garode Krovi Richtofen alone to die in a now closed-off dimension. While the apparent death of Pre-Garode Krovi Richtofen has definitely been the biggest topic of discussion, my first thought while watching the cutscene was, what does this mean for Victis, aka the Tranzit crew? Moments before the cutscene ended, the crew was still frozen in the Blood of the Dead spawn room, and as they clearly were not moved during the ending, is this just the end for that crew, or is there more to their story? As the cutscene ends, the entire map gets very, very dark, and some have taken this to signify the universe dying out completely, while others have thought this signifies the power going out across the map. If the power theory is correct, Victis would thaw out from their cryo chambers and find themselves in a now closed off Blood of the Dead. This theory is very strongly supported by a telephone that can be found unclassified that is almost certainly set post Blood of the Dead. Have a listen for yourself.
Richtofen! Hey, Richtofen! You've been gone from my head a really long time. I gotta be honest, I'm freaking out a bit, man. It's so quiet. I can actually hear myself think. Do you know what that's like? It's not nice at all. So, listen, buddy, old pal, we gotta talk. You sent us here, of all places, but you forgot to tell us what to do. It's dark, it's damp, it's just really filthy. I think the roaches are crawling with roaches. How is that even possible? Wait, shoot. Am I even talking to the right Richtofen? Oh, you could be the other one, right? Or the other one. Yeah, you know what? Just go talk to your Richtofen pals at the hoity-toity Ricky Gang Clubhouse and find out what the we're supposed to be doing.
This telephone call has us listen to Stuhlinger, who is trying to contact Richtofen, although he seems to be contacting the wrong Richtofen, as this Ultimus Richtofen Unclassified has no idea who Stuhlinger is at that point in time. During this call, Stuhlinger says Richtofen has sent him somewhere, but it's very dark, damp, and they have no idea what they're there for. He also clearly has knowledge of the multiverse and the concept of multiple Richtofens, which means there is really only one time that this phone call could take place, and that is post Blood of the Dead. During the Call of Duty Zombies comic, Primus Richtofen introduces himself at the lab at Alcatraz, which is where the Victis first learns of multiple Richtofens. Up until then, they thought there was only just the one. Directly after, the crew is frozen in the lab, where we still see them frozen on Blood of the Dead, and this means, at least knowing what we do now, that this phone call has to take place post Blood of the Dead, unless the crew was cryogenically frozen, then unfrozen, and frozen again, which we know nothing about. Unless Treyarch adds a bit of story where Victis learns there are multiple Richtofens earlier in the storyline somewhere down the line, or this is just purposely misleading and another Stuhlinger entirely, that phone call has to take place after Victis has thawed out from their cryo chambers, still stuck in the Blood of the Dead dimension. So what exactly does this mean? What can Victis do in a dimension that has apparently been closed off entirely? Well, first and foremost, Richtofen could still very well be alive and hooked up to the Warden's machine. He is not necessarily dead after the rest of the characters leave. The map does go black and white and he does seem to slouch down, but the Warden does say earlier on in the Easter egg that the machine will use their bodies as a power source forever. I don't think Richtofen is dead at the end of the cutscene, as seconds before he is speaking to Post-Rev Richtofen and telling him to please help him as he is a doctor. If he were less than a minute away from death, nothing would have been able to be done at that point anyways, so we more than likely didn't actually see him die, and he very well could be found by the Victis crew upon thawing out. Stuhlinger even has direct dialogue with Richtofen on the map, where he is now in Richtofen's head as opposed to the other way around. I will play that clip for you guys right now.
12,042 bottles of beer on the wall. 12,042 bottles of beer. You take one down, you pass it around. 12,041 bottles of beer on the wall.
Anyone? Who in the fuck?
Element 115 based illusion. You are in cryostasis back in the lab. How could you... The lighthouse. It must have triggered a chain reaction in the ether.
There's really not all that much concrete information that can be gleaned from this, apart from the knowledge that the lighthouse triggered some form of an element 115 delusion that allowed the cryogenically frozen Stuhlinger to communicate with Richtofen, and as far as we currently know, only Richtofen. It's very possible that, after thawing out and more than likely finding Richtofen hooked up to the machine, either dead or possibly alive, pre-Garode Krovi Richtofen convinces the crew to release him from the machine, and they move on from there. That does raise another problem, as even if Richtofen would still be alive, he would be gravely injured and in need of serious medical attention to possibly survive. Like I said earlier, he says to post-Revelations Richtofen that he can help him as he is a doctor, but as far as I know, none of the Victis crew would have any knowledge in that department. Any predictions past what the Victis crew would do after thawing and potentially finding and saving Richtofen would just be pure conjecture and guesswork. If pre-Garode Krovi Richtofen did survive, he would more than likely be dead set on revenge, either against his alternate self or just the universe in general, and we could potentially see him manipulating Victis into teaming up with him, and possibly Monty. There are many directions this could go, but I very much doubt this is the last we see of the Victis crew. Treyarch went through the trouble of bringing them back in Garode Krovi, dedicating an entire comic book series to fleshing them out, and had them featured pretty predominantly on Blood of the Dead. During the Easter egg yesterday, as the team I was in was part of the second in the world finish, I was just waiting for Victis to show up at some point. I had no idea what was going to happen, but I was sure they would show up. I thought we may even play as them at some point during the boss fight, and when the cutscene ended with no input from them at all, I immediately thought the ending may have not been as it seemed. It's always possible that the ending was just meant to permanently write that crew out of the story, but I think it's far more likely this is what will actually bring them back into the fold. Guys, make sure to let me know what you think of all this down in the comments. Do you guys want to see more Victis, or are you more than happy with them just fading into obscurity? Be sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel, and thank you guys so much for watching. Goodbye.